Shin is a blob with no ambition who's basically just part of the furniture. And he's a worthless gaming addict, just like you. One day, he dips back into the virtual world and a sus gate appears, breaking up his gaming routine. Suddenly, the log out button disappears.
What? 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 What?
And he's now trapped in a real-world fight for survival. The only option to save his sorry ass is to beat the final boss and win the game. But before that, this useless MC heads out to the big boss level fight after leaving his entourage behind. They wish him the best of luck and promise that if he doesn't lose his head, maybe they'll come and find him.
Maybe.
But as soon as this idiot joins the battle, the giant boss reminds him who's the owner of this dungeon. But the big guy couldn't land the blow. Shin counters with his own attack, managing to lop off the monster's wing. To his surprise, the wing regenerates, and the monster's HP is partially replenished. Shin attacks again, hitting the monster with multiple strikes. This time, the monster doesn't regenerate fast enough. The edgy boy attacks one last time, striking the boss on its horn and finally sending it to Monster Valhalla. The game announces Shin's victory and grants him a list of titles as his reward. With the final boss defeated, the other players begin to log out of the game until he is the last one left. He opens his settings and tries to follow, but to my boy's greatest surprise, the gate closes and another gate opens behind him. This low-budget Kirito is baffled as he believes beating the boss is the final event of the game. However, he suddenly wakes up in the middle of a field. Since this fool has been in the game so long, he doesn't know if he's in the real world or if he's still somewhere in the game.
Are you serious right now, bro? Like, are you serious right now?
In order to confirm, Shin opens his stats and sees they have substantially increased. But all pros come with a con as he finds out he's stuck in the game with no way out. And with the logout button gone, also was the game's network as he could no longer connect to it. Shin starts pooping his edgelord pants. After a valiant effort, he is able to use his last 2 brain cells to figure out he has been isekai'd. He realizes he is just as useless here as he was in the real world, and decides to try to make it back to his home base. So Shin uses a glowing item to find his way. But as he gets closer, he finds a city that wasn't there before. He takes a pass and continues his journey. When Shin gets to his old base, he finds a girl being harassed by a bunch of losers. They take her past the barrier surrounding his house, but suddenly, a monster emerges from the forest to stop them. The cowards were like, hell nah, and log out of the scene faster than your GF left you. But Shin the simp manages to save her before the monster can reduce her lifespan. The girl invites him inside the house called the Moon Sanctum, where she introduces herself as Tierra and thanks him for saving her. She asks if he knows her master, Shni, who happened to be part of his old crew. We'll call her Ni from now on. He confirms that he knows her and asks where she might be. But Tierra, who thinks he's Ses, refuses to tell him. However, she offers to deliver a message to Ni, saying it costs 1,000 jewels.
Are you a gold digger or not?
The broke, homeless boy shows a coin and explains he only has 1 gall. She wonders if he used an item box because only kings can use one, and she's also surprised by the gall coin, because one of them is worth 10 billion jewels.
I hate all these damn rich people.
However, Shin remembers that in the game, 1 gall was the smallest amount of money. Tierra wonders who he is, so Shin explains he's a high human. He is then told that only 6 high humans ever existed in the world, and they disappeared 500 years ago, during the dusk of prosperity. While the airhead tries to take this in, Tierra wonders how he could have possibly missed this historical event when all those people disappeared. Shin finally figures she's talking about the mass logout. He figures out that thousands of people logging out at the same time must have become a major incident. Learning he's been sent 500 years into the future of the game, he thanks her for teaching him this and offers the gall as a token of gratitude. She's happy to have one, thinking it will be useful to her since elves are good at magic and she happens to be one. But she still wonders how this clueless meathead even knew she was an elf, since Ni slapped an illusion spell on her. Shin is confused by this. He asks why Ni would do that. Tierra explains that elves with black hair are considered a bad omen. In addition to this, monsters always attack her, forcing her village folk to give her the boot. Ni had altered her appearance and brought her to the shop, where the barrier kept her safe. Since then, she has lived there for only about 100 years.
She looks like she was born 100 years ago.
Our gamer finally puts two brain cells together and figures out why the boar appeared, then notices her hair was originally silver. He decides to try to fix her. After analysis, he discovers she is cursed with a spell that pops up at random. He whips out his purification skill to remove the curse. Unfortunately, only part of her hair returns to its original color, which leaves him a bit disappointed. But the baddie doesn't care and is very grateful for his help. She is even happier when they successfully leave the barrier without being attacked by any monsters, crying tears of joy. They head back to the moon sanctuary and Tiara tells Shin that Ni will be gone for some time. While she is away, he decides to visit the city to explore the world. Tiara gives him a letter of recommendation to pass the checkpoint, insisting it is a token of her thanks. She promises to contact him when Ni returns, and he sets off. Arriving at the city, he meets a gate guard who explains that the letter is significant. It works in other kingdoms and can even secure an audience with the king. The guard then escorts him to the Adventurers Guild where he tries to register on the second floor. The receptionist there directs him to the first floor. The receptionist downstairs resembles the previous one and introduces herself as Silica, saying the other is her twin sister, Celica.
Those twins weren't twins.
While waiting for his adventurer card, Celica shows up with food and proceeds to watch him eat like he's a zoo exhibit. She asks to confirm the letter of recommendation, and Shin notices the guild master standing behind him.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Shin speaks with the guild master, who introduces himself as Barlux. He sets his own recommendation letter beside the protagonist's, and the two react the same way, proving Shin's own is authentic. Barlux explains that these letters are valuable because they serve as trusted identification and grant access to important places. Many people try to steal them, and losing one can cause serious harm. He advises Shin to destroy it if he cannot safeguard it. Shin refuses, saying he will protect it because Tiara entrusted it to him. Barlux approves of his answer. He says they should get along, since they are both recognized by the sanctuary. The next day, Shin returns for an adventurer card that will let him undertake missions. Silica notices he is wearing different clothes, and he says his old outfit is too flashy for a beginner. She gives him the card and outlines the ranking system. 9 levels from G to SS, with rank increases earned by completing jobs. That means he can only take requests. Our boy accepts an herb collecting job. He says goodbye to Silica, who quietly states that he seems different from other adventurers.
Well, it's probably because you don't get them.
In the forest, he searches for hours without success. In the game, this is an easy beginner mission, so the difficulty surprises him. His radar suddenly detects an enemy. Investigating, he finds a skull-faced Jack with a level of 359 beside a wrecked carriage. He decides to engage despite the risk. The walking skeleton wields a rare light element sword, leading Shin to suspect it is a unique monster. His first attacks fail, and his sword is already damaged. With no other option, he activates his limit. The charged strike kills the monster instantly, but its sword is thrown far away, preventing the meathead from claiming it. The monster drops a gemstone, which he takes instead. Meanwhile, the sword lands inside the royal castle like FedEx overnight shipping. The guards are confused, but the second Princess Rion orders an appraisal and demands to know who threw it, figuring whoever did must be an absolute beast. In the city, the protagonist sees injured soldiers. A guard says their group of 12 was attacked by the skull-faced Jack, and only 4 survived. The broken carriage belonged to them. He also mentions the great sword that crashed into the castle, making the meathead feel guilty since he was responsible. Luckily, nobody is injured, so he denies any knowledge of it. Shin walks into the guild, where he sees a bunch of adventurers present. He asks Silica about them, and she tells him adventurers are gathering to hunt the skull-faced monster. The dumbass states he already killed it and shows the gemstone. Silica is so shocked, she gets in his face, shouting at him in doubt. He points out she is standing too close, so she pulls back. Els arrives, and Silica explains what Shin just told her. He admits the monster dropped no notable gear. Els finds this unusual, as even rank B gear is valuable. she asks Silica to check the gemstone for the monster's mana. The MC asks about skull-faced Jack appearances. L says they form in high mana areas with lingering death energy. But this forest has low mana, so one this strong should not exist. Shin concludes that the one he fought is an exception and mentions it was a level 359, which surprises both women. They decide to confirm his claims by appraising the gem. L says if his account is true, his ability exceeds that of a rank a party. He then asks her to keep it secret. Later, the protagonist goes to a restaurant for dinner. The waitress, Celica, says someone will share his table. A man with a spear venom, who is dressed like the lead singer of a goth boy band, walks in, drawing a lot of attention from the crowd in the inn. He walks over to Shin and sits down, introducing himself as Wilhelm. He assumes the wimpy nerd in front of him is an inexperienced noob, but upon further inspection, he notices the nerd is above average. As they start to talk, Shin says he has been in the city for only 3 days and comes from the countryside. Wilhelm explains that his nickname, the Vampire, comes from his spear-draining life, not his pale skin.
We know, but he is white.
Regardless, he is impressed by Shin's confidence, since everybody else seems to be scared of him. However, the dumb nerd is too oblivious to notice this, so he shares a meal with Wilhelm.
I can't help myself. I like good food, okay?
Afterwards, the MC visits the library to research the sunset of prosperity 500 years ago, but finds little info. He finds out the beings living in the world haven't changed much since then. Elsewhere, Barlux discusses the skull-faced Jack with a small council. They are shocked that whoever defeated it left behind its armor and took only the gem. Barlux is worried because the monster's level was way too high. But one of the councilmen, Aldi, is more interested in whoever defeated such a powerful monster. The guild master refuses to reveal Shin's identity, asking why Aldi is so interested. Aldi then casually reveals the sword that flew into the castle was a legendary grade weapon. Everyone agrees the owner is a big deal. In the city square, Shin notices a young girl watching him. He offers her food and learns she is Millie, a tiger type. Wilhelm says she is an orphan who often leaves the church. As Shin leaves, Millie whispers a request to him. That night, he recalls Millie asking him to rescue a fox in the forest. He decides to go and first stops at the Moon Sanctuary. He asks Tierra to show Ni his sword, which can only be used by them or someone they authorize. Tierra recognizes it as an ancient weapon and is unsettled because she is afraid it would consume her. Shin assumes this is due to its materials and explains the legendary monsters used to forge it. He hands Tierra magical letters that can reach him anywhere by writing his name and saying send. He remembers how he had tried to send one to Ni the previous night but failed. He decides to test it again by sending it to Tierra. This time, it works perfectly. He realizes it failed previously because he has not met Ni in this world. Tierra requests more letters to study, and he agrees. In the forest, Shin finds a shrine with a poisoned and cursed fox. He heals it, triggering an undead army to spawn. He defeats them with his spear. But 2 statues break open, releasing unknown demons at level 674. They attack, forcing him to evade and use shadow binding. The demons produce a mist that blocks vision. The fox leads him to a magic circle where the mist cannot enter, allowing him to fight back. Using his binding bow, he destroys both demons. When the mist fades, the fox jumps into his arms. Turns out the fox is an elemental, one of the strongest monsters in the game, though this one is apparently a baby version. Asking if it wants to join him, the fox hops onto his head in response. The nerd realizes, once again, that this world differs from the game he remembers. Ni receives a letter from Tierra and is surprised she possesses such a rare magical item. She is even more curious when the letter mentions Tierra's new master, meaning some random gamer boy is now in charge of her life. Back at home, Shin chooses to keep the elemental hidden from the guild. In order to do this, he proposes a contract with the fox, called taming, which will mask the creature's species and level, thereby allowing them to stay together. The fox agrees to this contract. They both glow like a cheap romance anime scene, and he names her Yuzuha. She's chill with it. Just then, a message from Tierra arrives, saying she has spoken with Ni and told her about him. The Goon Lord is pleased that his potential waifu is back on his roster, and he heads back to the guild. As soon as he arrives, somehow, the nerd is too dumb to figure out these baddie twins both want a taste of his special sauce.
Ever wonder what makes special sauce so special?
He goes ahead and reports the undead army he fought in the forest. After this, he checks the job board, where he notices a special request from the orphanage. Remembering Millie lives there, he accepts. At the church, he meets Trya, who turns out to be the nun who posted the request. He indicates he knows Millie, so she takes him to her. Millie runs to hug him, and Trya notices she hasn't been this attached to anyone in a while, thinking this socially awkward nerd must actually be a good person. He confirms Yuzuha is the fox Millie spoke of and explains their meeting is thanks to her request. So Yuzuha thanks Millie. The protagonist asks about the request. In response, Trya says she is looking for someone who inherited a special skill so they can teach her. From her tone, he learns few people have the ability to use skills anymore. She states she is interested in the specific skill Purify, which is rare and difficult to find among adventurers these days. Shin offers to teach her the skill on the condition that he learns more about Millie's abilities and receives any information the church has about her. Millie assures Trya he can be trusted, so the nun agrees. Trya tells him that Millie possesses the skill called the Star Composer, which allows her to see the future without error, which makes her the perfect wingman to fund my gambling addiction. Our gamer boy immediately thinks this would be opt for gambling, but also realizes this ability puts a target on Millie's back. She adds that there is another adventurer who supports the orphanage because he grew up there. Shin figures out she means Wilhelm. His feared reputation of being a little too attached to blood keeps the children safe. However, he is surprised when Trya tells him that the person she wants to learn Purify from is not Millie but Lasha, who is the former priest's granddaughter. If Lasha doesn't learn the skill, the incoming priest will shut down the orphanage for profit. While Yuzuha plays with the children, Millie stays beside Shin, explaining that she is too weak to match the older kids. Gamer Boy tries to be friendly with the kids, but ends up looking like a weirdo who was a little too Diddy-like with children. One of the kids walks up to him and asks if he will save the orphanage from the greedy priest. Before he can answer, Millie promises he will. Because the other children trust her, they decide to believe her and trust Shin too. The kids finally accept him and even snuggle up to him as he rests under a tree. Soon, Trya calls him in and introduces him to Lasha, who is also a nun. As they talk, the edgy goth Lord Wilhelm arrives, asking who took the request. Millie vouches for Shin, and Wilhelm agrees to trust him but threatens to turn him into a Japanese kebab if he betrays Millie. Shin explains Lasha will need to defeat 200 undead above level 150 with a sacred orb while he plays support. Lasha agrees, and Wilhelm decides to tag along, probably because he's bored. That night, Wilhelm invites the protagonist for a drink and asks if he is a chosen one. Shin denies it. He isn't convinced by Wilhelm's tough guy personality and suspects the vampire wannabe is a nice softie who loves kids no diddy, which is why he helps the orphanage. Wilhelm denies this and claims he just dislikes hearing children cry.
It's the same damn thing, idiot.
While they talk, Tiara sends a message that Nee will return soon. She states how much she asked about her master. Soon, his letter of recommendation arrives. Wilhelm is surprised and tells him he has one too. The next day, they head to Ghost Plains for training. Shin traps undead, Wilhelm slices them, and Lasha purifies what's left. They keep grinding XP until she's close to level 150. Elsewhere, Princess Rion defeats a skull-faced Jack with the sword they found in the castle earlier. A knight worries about another group in the same vicinity. Nee offers to help. The group is struggling against its skull-faced Jack until Nee arrives in time. With just one strike, she destroys the undead's core, leaving everyone watching in shock. Nee heals the wounded soldiers. The commander thanks her, admitting they would have been forced to retreat without her. She insists they had already weakened the monster, but he knows it's false. He mentions the recent unusual undead activities that have been occurring in the Ghost Plains and still can't wrap his head around how this one woman clapped a boss monster that his entire elite squad couldn't handle. She confirms from the guards that the undead are all defeated. Then she tells them to use the items she gave them if more undead appear. After this, she heads into the forest to find her master. In the Ghost Plains, Wilhelm does what Wilhelm does best, going full edgelord, and weakens a skull-faced Jack so Lasha can deliver the finishing blow. Suddenly, she gets surrounded by a golden light like she just unlocked the DLC. She panics, but Shin assures her this is the usual reaction to learning a skill. Regardless, knowledge of purification floods her mind. She admits she can now protect the children and the orphanage. Shin suggests they rest, but Yuzua senses something strange. Then Shin spots a black-purple cloud forming in the sky. Wilhelm explains it is energy from the undead they just killed turning into a dark aura and collecting in the air. The shape forms a giant monster that makes all three of them collectively decorate their pants with poop. It's a skull-face lord, level 809, strong enough to destroy a nation. Lasha hangs on to the hope that the barrier they formed can keep them safe, but the Lord puts an end to the nonsense by smashing the barrier in one attack. Shin, seeing they are cooked, orders them to run, but the Lord summons an undead army to surround them. Wilhelm suggests busting through, but Shin goes full anime protagonist and powers up, choosing aura farming instead of escaping with his life. Wilhelm watches him charge up and realizes the nerd is more powerful than he looks. He asks Shin who he is, but the aura farming merchant smiles and orders them back to the city. Wilhelm detects he is serious and agrees, so Shin buffs him with speed and strength. With this, Wilhelm clears a path through the ambush, taking Lasha with him. Finally alone, the protagonist summons his sword. Yuzua turns into a living flamethrower, using her foxfire to turn the undead into fried meat. But the Lord isn't done, yet it pulls a full Night King moment and summons even more undead. Shin answers with a massive lightning strike that leaves a crater in the ground. He opens his map to check the damage he has done, only to see a blue body in the map approaching his position at a high speed. Taking a break from the fighting, he leaps over the surrounding undead to intercept the mysterious newcomer. To his surprise, it happens to be Ni who spotted him from his lightning attack earlier. Before he can address her, he notices the undead closing down on him. Yuzua detects her master needs time with his albino waifu and plays the perfect wingman by raising a barrier to protect them. Somehow, the tiny fox is more understanding than my college roommate. Ni rushes forward and hugs her master to herself, shedding a tear. He hugs her back, whispering that he was back as they hold on to each other. Unfortunately, the poor fox soon grows tired of holding up the barrier. It collapses from exhaustion, which causes the barrier to fall apart. Ni and Shin fight side by side, wiping out the lesser undead and even damaging the skull-faced lord. Shin summons a second sword and lands the killing blow. The monster speaks, demanding power, before dying, and the low-budget hero is stunned it could talk. He takes the orb and they move to a safe spot. He explains that after defeating the final boss and freeing everyone from the game, a portal sent him 500 years into the future, which confused him until now. Ni says she and the other support characters stayed, but chaos split their group and she eventually returned to the Moon Sanctuary. She is happy to see him, but he asks her to stop calling him Master to avoid attention. She blushes when using his name. He says he plans to visit the sacred place to search for a way home. Ni has been there but did not explore much. She is saddened by his intent to leave. However, they agree to return to the sanctuary. They plan to hold a reunion celebration. Ni notices Yuzua, now with 3 tails, and the fox speaks, startling Shin. Her voice had returned after the Skullface Lord's defeat, likely because it was a boss. He asks her not to talk in front of others and to merge her tails into one. She obeys, asking if she's a good girl, and Ni pets her. Remembering Wilhelm and Lasha, the professional aura farmer catches up to them. Lasha faints while Wilhelm relaxes seeing Ni. Back at another battlefield, Rion inspects the damage and recalls a mysterious attack that wiped out the undead they were fighting earlier and also healed her soldiers. A soldier named Gadrus shows her a sword with a falcon emblem, saying even damaged, it still radiates insane power. He says only one person could have forged it, the Ebon Blacksmith, the ultimate crafting god of the High Humans. This confirms the level of threat and mystery surrounding the unknown adventurer. Rion is shook because High Humans are supposed to be extinct. Gadras says they can't be sure, but whoever made that blade was powerful enough to treat it like scrap. Rion recalls that the Ebon blacksmith once owned the Moon's sanctuary and suggests they investigate. The guard asks what she'd do if she actually met a living high human. Without blinking, she says she'd challenge him to a duel and maybe marry him if he wins. Gadras almost faints. He begs her not to throw hands just to see how strong the guy is. She swears she's not that reckless, but nobody is buying it. Elsewhere, Wilhelm presses Shin for an explanation about his connection to Nee. She's clearly happy to see him, but Wilhelm refuses to drop the matter. The meathead tries bluffing, saying Nee handled the boss fight, but Wilhelm doesn't buy it. Instead, he points his spear and attacks, forcing him to admit the truth. He's a high human, and Nee instantly recognizes him as her master. Wilhelm states that high humans aren't just strong, they're also masters of their crafts, to the point that some people worship them. Shin admits he's a blacksmith and even offers to enhance Wilhelm's spear at a discount, but the vampire cosplayer refuses to let anyone touch it. The Shin still hands him a message card, telling him to reach out if there's trouble. He tries to decline, but the MC insists. He won't abandon the first friend he's made here. This forces the edgelord to finally accept his help. With Wilhelm and Lasha heading into the city, Nee remarks that her master never boasts, yet always shields the weak. He suggests they head for the Moon Sanctuary, and she smiles at the idea. When they arrive, Tierra rushes out, ready to gossip about the new guy, then freezes when she sees them together. She asks if he's staying for dinner. Nee just casually drops the bomb that this absolute goober owns the Moon Sanctuary. Tierra freezes. She admits she didn't take him seriously when he claimed to be a high human, but now she can't deny it. Realizing he's her boss, she apologizes for any past disrespect. He tells her not to worry and that he prefers things to be kept informal. He also introduces Yusuha as his new pet, which leaves Tierra even more confused than before. At dinner, Shin compliments the cooking like Gordon Ramsay on sedatives. Tierra says she's never seen food like this, and he's pleased when he notices it's made with ingredients he provided to Nee. Tierra notices an aura coming from the dishes. The low-budget Gordon Ramsay explains they're high-grade meats and vegetables harvested from powerful monsters, nearly impossible to obtain. Nee adds that the aura is leftover mana, which is common in rare plants and beasts. Afterwards, they settle in and enjoy the meal. They relax and talk about the other support characters Shin left behind, and he's relieved they're doing fine. Tierra gets drunk and suddenly interrupts. Nee carries her to bed while her master laughs and heads to his room. There, he finds the space unchanged, with Yusuha asleep on his bed. He lies down too, but wakes later to find Nee beside him, clinging to him and crying in her sleep, whispering his name. He quietly apologizes for leaving her. Morning comes, and Shin wakes to Yusuha in her human form hugging him. Startled, he quickly crafts clothes suited for humanoid elementals. She thanks him, though she struggles to put them on. At breakfast, Nee is overjoyed to see Yusuha's new form. Yusuha shares her backstory, explaining that 500 years ago, she tried to stop a cataclysm, nearly died, and was saved by Nee. It faded when she reached the sanctuary. She nearly died, but Nee saved her. The protagonist says he only found her thanks to Millie, and Yusuha decides to thank Millie again someday. Nee suggests they prepare one of Tierra's elven treats as a gift, since it's a bestseller. Shin complains that the Moon Sanctuary wasn't supposed to be a bakery, but Nee explains the arsenal won't open without him anyway, so weapons can't be restocked unless he gets forging. He agrees to make new gear later. Then Nee mentions visiting Gerard. Shin is shocked since high beasts rarely live beyond 150 years, and it's been 500. Nee explains Gerard has been waiting for him all this time. Once the first beast king, he united the beast tribes. The current ruler is the 8th in line and reportedly a good king, so Gerard must be well. They plan to leave the next day. Tierra offers to watch the shop, but Nee insists she come along. With Shin here, the shop can be moved anywhere. Tierra happily agrees. Her master says they'll need supplies, and Nee mentions she'll be visiting the kingdom to report on the Skullface Lord, so she can gather supplies as well. He decides to take on a job along the route to Ferd to rank up while traveling. He also wants to forge swords and restock inventory. Ni suggests forming a party for voice communication, which is now called telepathy. Shin adds everyone to the link. She also proposes that Tiara register as an adventurer. Opening the forge, RMC warns Yusuha not to touch anything since some items are cursed. He starts crafting but accidentally forges a weapon so good it breaks the country's economy, so he tones it down before putting it in stock. Tiara soon changes into her adventurer gear, ready to go, and our virgin simp feels awkward seeing her in the outfit. To make matters worse, she catches his perverted eyes staring and declares he'll be carrying the shopping since he can't keep his pervy eyes to himself. Tiara is wide-eyed at the bustling market, tugging Shin from one vendor to the next. He reminds her that she doesn't actually know where the Adventurers Guild is, so he takes the lead. When he grabs her hand, she turns red but doesn't let go. Inside the guild, Celica congratulates him for hitting E rank like it's some big achievement and not the tutorial stage. She explains that his report about the Skullface in the undead army has been confirmed. That confirmation is what earned him the promotion, but they can't boost him too high too fast. She then glances at Tiara and immediately goes into gossip mode, asking what's going on between them. Shin says they are simply traveling together, but Celica laughs and says that people don't usually hold hands with just a companion. She accuses him of hiding something, but he insists there's nothing to hide. Wanting to change topics, Shin asks about the Holy Land. He asks about the location believed to have been destroyed during the Dusk of Prosperity. Celica replies that only B rank or higher adventurers are allowed to view those records. The lazy MC decides he will wait until his rank improves. He then asks if there are any quests that head toward Ferd. Celica mentions a job escorting a carriage to a transit hub called Bayron, which leaves at noon. After leaving the guild, Tiara suggests they spend extra time exploring. So Shin proposes stopping by the church, which makes her eyes light up. They stroll through the streets, window shopping like broke adventurers before reaching the church. Shin greets Lasha, and Tiara does her polite intro. Lasha is surprised to hear that Tiara is from the Moon Sanctuary and immediately asks how she became Shin's disciple. Her enthusiasm makes it obvious she deeply admires her master. Her hero worship vibes so strong it's almost embarrassing. Inside the building, Millie hugs both Yuzua and Shin. Lasha shares the news that she has been chosen as the next priest of the temple. Tiara thanks the protagonist for his help, and he asks after Wilhelm. Lasha explains that the edgelord has gone to speak with a priest who had nearly taken over the church, hoping to learn the man's intentions. Shin agrees it's a reasonable move. He then gives Lasha a bracelet and Millie a necklace, both warmly received. After parting ways, they collect Tiara's guild card from Celica. The game slave then decides it's time to bring the Moon Sanctuary with them. Tiara admits the idea of carrying a house feels strange, but Shin finds it completely natural. In a secluded alley, he produces a crystal bound to a location through a teleportation spell. It's meant for single use, but Tiara is amazed to learn that teleportation is considered a lost magic. Shin tells her he can make more. He reminds her that he is a high human. They activate the crystal, and Tiara can barely contain her amazement at the instant travel. They arrive at the Moon Sanctuary, and RMC stores the entire building into the necklace he wears, telling her this is its portable form. She is still marveling at the magic when he starts toward their next destination. At the carriage, an adventurer named Gayan, who looks like an oversized crocodile and undersized dragon, greets them. They introduce themselves and are interrupted by Gayan's companion Sabaki, who accepted the same quest. The dwarf merchant Nak tells them he is relying on their protection until they reach Bayron, and the journey begins. Elsewhere, in the royal castle, the king meets with his advisors. They inform him that somehow the Moon Sanctuary has disappeared. Knowing it was built before the Dusk of Prosperity using lost technology, the king suspects a greater matter. The princess asks about Ni, and her advisors tell her their reports predict she will reach the capital within the day. The princess urges patience, pointing out they do not yet have enough information, and that Rian has not yet returned. Reluctantly, the king agrees. Back in the carriage, Shin suggests everyone share their skills like they're making a D&D party sheet. Gayan says he's in a rank samurai with 0 magic skills, basically a sword jock. Sabaki says she's a B-rank brawler with speed buffs. Tiara humbly introduces herself as a newbie adventurer, swordbow hybrid, and discount healer. Shin claims samurai status and says he can throw out some fire and lightning magic on the side. He introduces Yuzua like a proud Pokemon trainer. Gaon is impressed that a samurai can use magic, while Sabaki is shocked Shin isn't from Hodo. In her kingdom, warriors become knights or berserkers, so samurai are seen as edgy weirdos. Shin defends the path, but Sabaki counters that it requires mastering both knight and berserker training before advancing. Gaon explains that Hanamoto, once an isolated island, is home to numerous samurai guilds that later united into a nation. He lists their names, and the protagonist is surprised they are the same as those from 5 centuries ago. The carriage halts abruptly as a gang of discount bandits blocks the road. Shin orders Yuzua to guard Nak. Both of them retreat into the carriage. Tiara stiffens since she has never slaughtered before. The bandits mock the group and demand they hand over Sabaki. At their crude taunts, Shin's expression hardens, his killing intent washing over the road, making Tiara uneasy. She quietly urges him not to lose control. Assessing the enemy, Gaon notices most are low rank and suspects an informant. An arrow suddenly drops a hidden bandit, and the rest rush in to fight. Sabaki, boosted by magic, drops one with a single blow. Gaon cleaves through another's weapon. The badass MC cuts down 2 at once. The bandit leader quickly realizes they are not ordinary E-rank fighters. Shin breaks the man's sword and glares at him until the leader freezes in place. When he demands the name of the informant, Tiara steps in, lightly gripping his arm.
It should have been me, not him! It's not fair!
Sabaki blinks in confusion at the sudden change in the human's mood. Shin himself wonders why she stepped in, until Tiara blushes, realizing she did it on instinct just like Ni used to when Tiara was younger. The group resumes their journey. However, Gaon suspects the bandits had targeted them because of the wagon's connection to the church. Shin wonders what their real objective had been. Fortunately, they reach Beiran without further incident. Before reporting to the guild, they receive their completion certificates from Nak. When he asks about Gaon and Sabaki's plans, they say they are heading to Kilmont and hope to cross paths with him again. Since Farned is still far, Shin proposes buying their own carriage. While inspecting options, Shin finds most of the options generic and starts mentally modding them like he's playing Car Mechanic Simulator, which immediately stresses Tiara out because this man can turn anything into a weaponized death machine. They eventually settle on one, and the seller asks if they have horses, warning they might need more than one. Shin keeps the idea of using Yuzua as a backup in mind. Soon after, Mi calls to say she has finished her work in the kingdom and will bring a monster to pull the carriage, arriving the next day. She also mentions that everyone freaked out when the moon sanctuary teleported away, but considers it a relief after repeated recruitment offers. That evening, they stay at an expensive inn to relax. Yuzua enjoys the downtime, and they have dinner together. Tiara and Yuzua hit the bath while Shin is left alone to beat his meat, as much as he wants. Ni arrives the next morning with a large jade wolf. Shin identifies it as a unique monster that leaves even Tiara surprised, especially after it shows interest in her. Ni explains it is a sacred class beast suited for his needs and could shrink in size. Thinking she'd made a mistake when Shin went quiet, she is relieved the moment he gives his approval. Yuzua learns the wolf's name is Shimmer, and the group prepares to continue their journey. As they depart for Farned, Shin's carriage modifications make the ride exceptionally smooth. Along the way, Yuzua speaks with Shimmer, who discloses that he and his mother once ruled the sacred mountain before an adventurer defeated her. He had been rescued as a pup by Tiara a century earlier, a fact she now remembered. Ni transfers Shimmer's contract to Tiara, basically making her a wolf mom. After the emotional paperwork, Tiara finally crashes for some well-earned rest. When her master asks why, Ni says she wants Shimmer to guard Tiara. Nearing Farned, they are met by 2 high-class beasts sent by Gerard. They escort the group to a mansion, where Gerard practically short-circuits seeing his old master show up alive after 5 centuries. Gerard pays his respects before introducing the current king, Wolfgang, and his daughter, Curry. Shin gently tells him he can stop calling him master. but Gerard explains that the formality is meant to put everyone at ease since high humans are considered legendary beings. A flash of memory takes them back centuries to when Gerard and Shin had fought side by side. Even after separating a good number of heads, many monsters still had theirs. The battle was far from over. Shin was standing back to back with him and told him to stay sharp as the next wave surged forward. Back to the present day, and both of these idiots can't pinpoint how they made it back alive from that battle. Gerard admits he has lost count of the monsters he unalived that day and speaks of how much the world had changed. Shin figures out he must already know about his exploits and guesses that Ni told him. She admits it is true since she had wanted Gerard to hear the truth, knowing he would embellish the tale in his own way. She goes to prepare tea, which gives these morons an ample amount of bro time. Gerard asks Shin why he vanished for 500 years, and Shin tells him everything, though he insists it hadn't been so bad. Gerard actually has some bad news. His life bar is at its end, and soon he'll be passing on to the afterlife like Master Oogway.
My time has come.
He wants one last duel, to face the man he considers the strongest warrior in the world. Shin understands that Gerard wishes to die in battle and accepts the challenge. That night, Gerard gathers his companions and tells them the duel would take place in a week, in the place where he wishes to die. His old comrades understand without showing emotion, but Curry cannot. She demands to know why they are so calm when he is choosing death. Gerard assures her he had lived a full life, and that this battle will be the greatest of them all. He wants everyone to witness it. After some time, Shin saw Gerard's armor that looked like something they've not touched since the 90s and decided to dust it up and give it a little upgrade. When he shows it to Gerard, his eyes light up with childlike joy. The day of the duel arrives, and Gerard asks if Shin would return to his own world afterwards. Shin assures him that the moment he's done with their useless asses, he'll run out of this world the following second, but he'd love to make sure everyone is happy before he leaves. The next day, the forest clearing where the duel will be held is prepared. Spectators take positions on a cliff above, while Ni promises to shield them from stray attacks. Gerard hands the future of the nation to Wolfgang, and Curry, holding back tears, promises to grow stronger. Gerard, now at peace, steps into the arena. They charge in for an attack, and as their weapons clash, it generates a blast so big, you'd see it from your living room. They separate and move at lightning speed through the forest, causing mini explosions. Gerard's companions watch in awe, realizing he can match the force of a high human. Ni, however, knows they are still holding back and will start really fighting soon. The real duel begins. The two combatants pause, and Gerard admits none of his attacks are working so far, but Shin can tell he is holding back. The king decides to take it up a notch by morphing into a massive, white werewolf. He remembers Shin promised not to use his most devastating skills, which he earned from defeating the final boss, because it would end the fight too quickly. Even so, Gerard attacks ferociously, intending to make him go all out and fight seriously. Shin counters with magic, but the wolf vanishes in a burst of speed, reappearing at his flank to land a crushing blow that sends the virgin hero sliding back through the dirt. Without pause, Gerard launches his ultimate technique, Legendary Excellence, which ejects a powerful blast of energy. Shin raises a barrier to absorb the impact, but his opponent is already behind him again, forcing him onto the defensive with continuous combos, pushing him harder. Realizing his opponent is truly giving everything, Shin decides to go all out. They both send powerful blasts of energy that collide and create a massive ball that destroys the trees around them. Gerard gains the upper hand, shattering Shin's sword and creating an opening. He moves to land the final blow, but he suddenly runs out of energy and collapses, reverting to his human form. Shin catches him before he falls, refusing to let him hit the dirt. Gerard, smiling, says he has trained for 500 years for this fight. He knows Shin has been holding back and asks to see his full power before he dies. Shin complies, releasing a brilliant column of light that pierces the sky. The wolf watches the sight of his master's full power. Then he closes his eyes, content. He passes with no regrets. Shin carries him back, where his companions mourn but do not weep, knowing he died the way he wished. Curry grieves but understands. They bury him later that night, with his subjects paying their respects. That evening, Ni finds Shin alone. She hugs him tightly, telling him it is all right to cry. He admits he had given Gerard the battle he desired, but could not help feeling sorrow for the loss of his friend. Ni tells him his duty has been fulfilled, and that it is fine to cry. Shin finally lets go of his grief in her arms. The next day, the group heads into the city. Shin wonders why his companions are dressed like fan service furries, and Ni explains that elves stand out too much, so they are trying to blend in. She asks the game Addict what he thinks, and he tells her she looks good, which makes Tiara blush, surprised to see her master acting so casually. They are there to see Schwade, one of Shin's other companions, who also attended Gerard's funeral. They arrive at the quarters where all the representatives are staying. Shin wonders if Schwade has also become a king like Gerard, and Ni mentions that he was the first emperor of the Dragon Empire, but has since retired. They are escorted to a room, and Schwade is brought in. He instantly bows to Shin, swearing to serve him once more, but Shin tells him to relax. Ni explains that things are different now. They share some tea and catch up. Schwade asks what he plans to do next. Shin explains that he intends to head to the Sacred Palace to conduct further research. Schwade requests to join him, but only after returning to his own country first. They agree to stay in touch through telepathy. As Shin leaves, he returns Schwade's old weapon. The retired king is amazed to see it after so long and notices that it has grown even stronger. Shin explains he boosted it while repairing Gerard's gear. The retired king is astounded at Shin's rapid growth, and Tiara cannot believe it either. Next, they visit the Adventurers Guild. Shin decides to level up his adventurer rank and accepts a goblin-slaying mission. Tiara asks to accompany him, and they head into the forest. They easily defeat one goblin each, and when Shin turns in the quest, the guild clerk hands him a message from Guildmaster Barlux. The note summons him to the palace at once. Tiara wonders why the palace needs him, and remembers the incident with the skull-faced sword, which causes her to panic. Shin visits Wolfgang before departing and gives him Gerard's gauntlets. Wolfgang points out how badly they were damaged in the fight, but Shin explains that since he originally crafted them, repairing them is no problem. Wolfgang tries them on and is amazed at their power. Shin tells him it is now up to him to pass them on. After farewells, Humble Boy prepares to teleport, knowing that taking the wagon would be far too slow. They return to the location of the Old Moon Sanctuary, and the wimp senses that they are being watched. Ni speculates that the kingdom hopes the Moon Sanctuary might reappear, but also worries that it might vanish again. Shin meets with Barlux at the guild, where a mage named Erod assists in appraising gems. The questioning soon turns serious. Shin wonders why the palace has summoned him when Erod suddenly asks if he knows about the sword that flew into the palace and crashed into the princess's room. Shin is shocked. Erod explains that the sword is comparable to a royal treasure and notes the gem the blockhead left behind from the skull-faced incident. The mana from the gem matches the swords, confirming Shin's involvement. Barlux reassures him that he is not in trouble thanks to the sanctuary letter. He adds that it was the second princess, Rian, who summoned him at night.
Night? Why at night?
Shin explains the situation to the others. Mi speculates that the kingdom might be trying to recruit him or even marry him off to a noble, prompting Shin to suggest pretending he is engaged to either her or to Tiara. Yuzuha also jokes about wanting to be his fiancée, which makes him panic, knowing she is far too young. The following day, the game nerd visits the castle. He is escorted by Godas, who is now level 188. Shin wonders if he is the kingdom's strongest knight. He is taken to the princess's room, where he meets Rian. She explains the situation with the skull-faced sword and notes that it must be an exceptionally powerful weapon. Shin casually mentions that he even broke his own weapon while fighting it. Rian observes him carefully, weighing his words against her own intuition skill. She comments that some adventurers who distinguish themselves are summoned by the palace, though others have been assassinated during such summons. She explains that the meathead is safe, relying on her intuition skill and the recommendation from the Moon Sanctuary, which she trusts not to send an assassin. Finally, she gets to the point. The simping wimp braces himself, expecting a proposal, but Rion simply asks to fight him. The guard protests, reminding Rion that she is a princess and shouldn't ask Shin to fight her. She explains that she must do this to confirm his abilities. Leading him to the teleportation room, they are instantly transported to the training ground, a field built for battles between the Chosen Ones. She explains that no one knows who set the teleportation points, only that they have existed for hundreds of years. Shin remarks it makes sense. Given that teleportation is considered a lost magic, he isn't surprised. Rion instructs him to grab a weapon. He chooses a sword, but she wields a massive two-handed weapon with one hand. The duel begins. Their weapons clash, and Rion suddenly tries to kick her opponent, who dodges it easily. He figures out she is a skilled fighter and adjusts his stats to match her level. He charges, trying to overpower her, confident in his physical strength. She tells him to rely on his skills. He prepares to use one of his abilities, only for her to copy it instantly. The guard states that they are evenly matched. The MC strikes, but Rion counters with a devastating move that shatters the ground. He is impressed at her power, acknowledging that he would have died if the blow had landed. She, in turn, recognizes he is strong too. Shin suggests ending the fight, noting her sword is reaching its limit. The guard agrees that she has achieved her goal, so Rion calls a halt to the duel. She asks Shin to join her, saying the kingdom needs him, but he politely refuses, preferring the life of an adventurer, and she respects his choice. Curious about the skull-faced sword, the MC asks why she has it. She explains that it crashed into her room and describes the custom where a man offers his sword as a marriage proposal, which confuses him. She sees it as a gift, but the protagonist clarifies that it arrived by accident and was never meant as a proposal. The guard warns him that some may use the incident as an excuse to arrest him and force him to serve the kingdom. Rion suggests treating it as tribute to prevent further trouble and offers to pay for it. But Shin declines the money, requesting access to the magical library instead. She agrees, and they return to the teleportation room. They find the guards unconscious and spot the priest, Gerald, under someone's control. The guard tries to intervene, but Rion and Shin vanish, reappearing in the ruins of a city. Rion identifies it as a holy land and wonders why Gerald lost his mind. They attempt to return to the palace, but she cannot use telepathy without a party. Shin contacts Ni, explaining that someone is controlling Gerald. Ni acknowledges that mind control magic is taboo. This confirms they are dealing with a powerful troublemaker. Shin decides against using teleportation magic to avoid drawing attention. He instructs Ni to handle everything and meet him in a nearby city, Valmar. Ni informs Tiara of the urgent business and asks her to join, explaining that they need to go to the palace. Ni discloses that a demon is involved, and Tiara recalls that demons are monsters born from Myastha. Ni clarifies further. She explains that demons can disguise themselves as other monsters and are ranked by strength, with humanoid demons at the top. Given the difficulty of mind control magic, she deduces they are facing a high-class demon, at least level 300. Tiara admits she is nowhere near that level, but Ni reassures her that she does not need to fight. Using a concealment spell, they become invisible and scale the castle wall, sneaking past the guards unnoticed. They head to the dungeon, where Ni explains that the demon has already captured Gerald. She uses magic to put the guards to sleep and retrieves a key to open Gerald's cell. Gerald explains that he does not remember everything, so Ni assumes the demon altered his memories. As she prepares to dispel the magic, the demon Magnu attacks. He knows her identity and warns her not to interfere, attempting to kill her. Ni easily overpowers him in battle. The demon asks why she protects Gerald. She explains that he is innocent and that she must protect him for her master. Magnu realizes she works for a high human and laments that the age of man is ending, inviting her to join him. She refuses, pointing out that he knows nothing, and quickly kills him. Ni approaches the king, explaining that a demon was behind the incident. The king is concerned, but she assures him Rion and Shin are safe. This brings relief to everyone. Gerald apologizes for his actions, and the king forgives him, understanding he was controlled, and asks him to continue serving the kingdom. Shin comments that the public would panic if they learned the truth, so the king decides to keep the incident secret. Ni tells Tiara that it is time to meet Shin, and they make their way to Valmer to regroup, knowing that bigger threats are looming in the shadows of the kingdom. We return to Shin as Rian explains that the Holy Lands are cities that fell during the dusk of prosperity. She believes they are filled with powerful monsters. She shows him the skull-faced sword and asks about his weapon. He waves it off, thinking of hiding his full strength. If she discovers how powerful he truly is, she'll never let him leave. Rian explains that her people once explored the city through the south gate. They found a small door containing the device to open it. As they explore a way to leave the ruins, Shin attempts to escape by jumping over one of the walls of the city, but he is teleported back. He tries again a couple of times, and the same thing happens. At this point, he figures out the reason. From his experience being a virgin gaming addict, he recognizes that the entire city is a dungeon. The only way out is through the glowing spheres. He shows her one of the spheres, and when they touch it, it transports them to the next location. The MC senses a monster nearby. They decide to confront it and discover it's a ghost-type creature that looks like a shriveled-up testicle called Gilly Wise. He observes its wind magic as it summons a powerful whirlwind. He slices it in half, creating an opening for the princess, who slashes the monster, but somehow it survives. Shin finishes it off. Rian, surprised, asks about his sword, and he admits it is an extremely rare item. Deeper into the dungeon, they encounter a giant slime called a Gilsly. Rian underestimates it and charges, only to be restrained by its slimy tentacles. The White Knight steps in, using his skill to save her. Only then does it occur to the dumbass that her head-on attack was reckless. Shin explains the slime is immune to physical attacks and is highly intelligent. He warns that the slime will chase down its victims. Using fire magic, he melts it, exposing its core. Rian destroys the core but notices her clothes are torn. Bro enters straight into simp mode and hands her a skimpy outfit that didn't hide much from his pervy eyes. As they continue their exploration, he asks if she can use magic. She admits she isn't skilled, so he teaches her a trick that engulfs her sword with flames, impressing her instantly. She tests it on a rock, and it burns instantly. Shin explains that the skill will be useful in battle, and the Rizd princess wonders why he helps her so much when she is given nothing in return. He tells her that protecting the people of her kingdom is thanks enough. At the gate, he suddenly feels strange, as if being pulled in. They see an enormous egg blocking the path. Rian states that monsters rarely spawn from eggs, so this is different. An ice griffin comes out, ready to attack, and it can freeze anything with its breath. Shin leaps away with Rian, formulating a plan. He will distract the griffin while she strikes from behind. He throws knives, causing the griffin to scream in pain. Rian seizes the opening and attacks with everything she has, while Shin adds his fire magic to finish the blow, decapitating it. They think the fight is over, but the griffin regenerates instantly. The dumbass figures out it was created with magic. The only way to defeat it is by disabling the spell. He instructs Rian to find the device to open the gate while he keeps the griffin busy. Shin removes his restrictions, knowing they cannot survive unless he goes all out. He slices off the griffin's head again, but it regenerates. He tests his full power, attacking relentlessly. Meanwhile, Rian finds the device, stopping the griffin's regeneration. It attempts to freeze him, but he leaps forward, ignites his fire magic, and delivers the finishing blow. The griffin explodes, leaving nothing behind. Shin wonders what just happened, and Rian asks. He explains that this is how he was able to defeat it. They escape the dungeon and set out for Valmer to meet his companions that evening. The MC sets up camp and tells Rian to rest while he keeps watch, taking on the role of a guardian. She notices he has everything they need, and when she asks why, he explains that he's used to traveling. Suddenly, she tries to seduce him, but the virgin nerd rebuffs her. She asks if he finds her attractive. At this point, the blockhead realizes she is serious. She admits she enjoys talking to him because people usually treat her as a princess, and she doesn't enjoy their company. Shin tells her she can speak to him whenever she feels lonely. She clings to him, enjoying the moment, and he decides to keep her company. But the next morning, Shin wakes to a sense of dread. In the distance, he sees an army of monsters marching toward Valmer. Rian mentions that the phenomenon is called the Flood. She explains that Valmer is used to handling it, but the city always suffers casualties. She says it looks threatening, and Shin doesn't want people to die, so he resolves to protect the city. They reach Valmer, and Rion tells Shin to report to the Adventurers Guild while she talks to the local lord, as they need to gather the city's warriors to defend against the monsters. Shin meets the guild master, Lack, who explains the flood and says it will reach Valmer in a few days. Lack remains skeptical, so Shin shows his recommendation letter and mentions that Rion is speaking with the local lord. Lack realizes he isn't lying and declares a state of emergency, saying the guild will participate in the battle. Shin assures him he will also contribute, which pleases Lack, who is glad to have him around. He then notices a store called Melland and thinks it looks familiar. He tells Nee, but she says she's never heard of it. He meets an elf he recognizes as Barrett, who had served as a support character for one of the low-budget hero's friends. They hang out, and the protagonist explains the flood, but Barrett asks why he didn't handle it earlier, knowing he could have destroyed it. Shin explains it's because of Rion, not wanting her to know his powers. He then asks Barrett about Melland, and he explains it belongs to Shin's old friend Hio. Turns out there are other players in the city, which surprises Shin since he thought Hio died during the death game. Barrett shows him a list of all the players in the world, and to his surprise, the meathead realizes he knows many of them. Barrett also shows a list of player killers, and Shin despises them for unaliving his friends during the death game. Barrett explains that Nee ordered the hunters to target these assassinators. He wonders why she didn't tell Shin, but knows she would never betray him. He reassures the game Addict not to worry. The low-budget hero asks if Barrett will join the battle, but he says he isn't needed. He knows the MC can protect the city alone. He jokingly notes he'll be there for the loot, recalling his love of money.
Typical Jew.
The next day, Shin, Nee, and Tiara head to the Lord's castle. At the castle, Lord Toro briefs them on the battle plan. The Chosen Ones will serve as the vanguard, Knights will defend behind them, and Nee's squad will provide ranged support. Shin notices no monsters outside the castle and reports this to Toro, thinking it's because of the flood. Toro doesn't believe him since this has never happened before. Nee explains she has seen the monsters join the flood before, and there is likely a boss leading them. Toro believes her, and the game nerd recalls a similar situation during the death game, grateful she clarified it for everyone. Later, he thanks Nee for handling the discussion and asks if she used advanced spells while he was gone. She denies it, saying basic spells were sufficient. Shin decides he must hide his powers, instructing her to use an advanced spell at the beginning of the battle. That evening, everyone prepares as the flood approaches. Nee casts a powerful spell, destroying countless monsters instantly, yet they keep advancing. Shin realizes this is no ordinary flood. He asks if she can use the spell again, but it's on cooldown. He fights monsters using his flames, but holds back to avoid attracting attention. Rion orders everyone to attack, and Tiara unleashes her new skill, causing a massive explosion. Rion slices through the monsters, but a large creature appears, overwhelming her briefly. She struggles against it until Wilhelm joins the fight, helping them bring it down. Rion asks the Edgelord why he is in Valmer. He explains the guild requested help and mentions that Millie was worried about Shin. The low-budget superhero wears a disguise, saving a group of soldiers under the name Red. He advises them to retreat because his new weapon is lethal. The weapon activates, and Wilhelm immediately recognizes it as cursed since it consumes everything. The Edgelord urges Shin to go on a rampage, but he ignores it. Shin spots a demon leading the flood. It uses a mind control spell, affecting the knights, but he is immune to that. He removes his restrictions and delivers a powerful attack, slicing the demon in half. Nee helps the knights recover, and they win the battle without casualties. The city asks Shin's party to stay so they can be rewarded, but he wants to return home. Nee reminds him of customs. They enter a banquet and see Rion. Nee asks if Shin got lucky with her, but he vehemently denies it. Rion notices his odd behavior and begins teasing him. Tiara realizes something is off and entertains Rion, telling Shin to get drinks, but he joins Nee instead, asking if Rion got jealous. She confirms and knows he learned about the player killers. She apologizes for hiding it, explaining she didn't want him to return to his old self. Since she's got the self-esteem of a fat, ugly girl, she feels she can't and will never match up to Marino's. He's glad to have found her after returning to the world and forgives her for not disclosing the player killers, telling her she needn't hide secrets. She asks if he still loves Marino, and he confirms it. She suddenly kisses him, refusing to give up on him because she loves him. Knowing he will eventually return to his world, they return to the banquet and enjoy the night together. Shin states the world still holds mysteries. He worries about the player killers, fearing he might be their next target. Knowing there are still other players in the game, he resolves to find them. He says he'll continue searching for answers with his friends by his side. And that's where this story ends, for now. Thanks for making it to the end. You are a real one. To confuse the fake fans, drop teleportation station in the comments. Like, subscribe, and check out one of our other videos. Stay awesome, stay AniGeek.